Hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Georgiman and I'm your friendly neighborhood anime and manga fan. I love all things anime and all things manga, and I'm here today to talk about Oshi no Ko episode 2. So, what did you think about this week's episode? I personally thought this week's episode was very good. I thought it was a very solid episode, and now we're starting the journey of Aqua and Ruby's story, because after last week's episode, Ai's tragic death, now we find out, okay, these two are the main characters of the story and this is the plot. Now, right off the bat, I don't know if I would go as far as to say that this episode was as good as last week's, because last week's was exceptional. But to be fair, last week's was also an 80-minute episode, so I don't think it's fair to compare both of them. I think they're great. The two of them were great as a whole. And I personally think it's kind of silly to even try to attempt to compare this episode with last week's, because last week's was just, it was a feature-length movie at that point. Now, before we go any farther, I just wanted to give you guys a quick reminder to make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you guys can be up to date with all Oshi no Ko, and as well as anime and manga content that I'll be providing in this channel. I would really appreciate if you guys could subscribe to my YouTube channel. It really helps out a lot, so if you guys could, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Now, with that being said, let's get into this week's episode. So in this week's episode, we pick up where we left off last week's, which is pretty much not the kids. They're the main focus of the story. We got Aqua and Ruby, and we find out what their motivations are, because after Ai's death, we did a huge time skip. So now we see Aqua and Ruby pretty much as teenagers, and you see what their dreams and what they've been up to. And as for Ruby, her dream is to become an idol, and that's her whole big thing. She wants to live in the footsteps of her mom, the legacy that she left behind. She wants to capture that and become a star just like her mom, as well as we get to see Aqua's motivation. And what we see from Aqua is that he's being kind of behind the scenes, hanging out with the director, the one that he met in the previous episode, and he's been kind of working as an assistant director, because he wants to be in the shadows. He wants to be in the spotlight because he's trying to catch who their father is, because he suspects that their father is the one that killed their mother. So he's trying to get into the the show business, but he wants to keep it at an arm's length. He doesn't want to give too much attention to himself. So he doesn't want to pursue acting. He wants to be just as an assistant director / editor or whatever it is, but he wants to be behind the scenes, which is the complete opposite of what Ruby's ambitions and dreams are. She wants to be in the spotlight, and she wants to be a huge star. So there's already a conflict of interest. And not just that, we also find out that Aqua has been sabotaging Ruby's, whenever she applies to become, join one of those idol groups. You see that Aqua has been secretly behind her back, sabotaging her. He be blocking the director's numbers. He's been, sending fake texts to these people saying not to reach her. But we do find out that the reason he's doing all these things is because he wants to keep, Ruby away from the spotlight, because he knows that, what happened to Ai might happen to her. She doesn't want to bring Ruby into the world of show business, because all the toxicity and all the drama and the backstabbing and politics that comes with it. Because as we saw in the first episode, there was a lot of stress that Ai was under. She had to go perform. She had to deal with the tabloids. Her life was in the spotlight. She was always by the paparazzi. She was always in someone's radar. And Aqua was trying to protect his sister from that, because he knows that the life of a celebrity is chaos. And so I understand where he's coming from, but I still don't find his behavior to be acceptable, because he's purposely sabotaging his sister's dreams. And even though he has good intentions, at the end of the day, it's her life, and she will make those choices once the time comes when she becomes an adult. Right now, she's not an adult, but she'll eventually become an adult, and he won't be able to stop her at that point. So I think Aqua's just, he's just kind of stalling what's gonna, he's kind of just stalling her career, and I think that it's inevitable that she will become successful. She's definitely positioned in a way that in her future she will become an idol, and I think that's where the story is going to lead up to. And I think the two sides of the story that we're going to be focusing on is going to be Aqua's trying to find who the killer of their mother was, and in the Ruby side of the story, we're going to find out how she's going to become an idol. And I think that's going to be the two main plot threads throughout the story. Now, what about this week's episode? What happens in this week's episode? We see that pretty much, she gets rejected, and she gets sad because she really wanted to join an idol group. And eventually we cut to Mayako, which is their foster mom, and she telling Aqua you can't stop her. She's looking more and more like your guys' mother, Ai. And I know all these talent agencies they're gonna want to have her at one point, because she is very, she is a very good looking girl and she has some skills. So no matter how hard you try, you will not be able to stop her. And Aqua just says like, well, as long as I'm gonna prevent it as much as I can, because I don't want my sister to be an idol, because like I said earlier, he doesn't want the same thing that happened to their mother to happen to Ruby, and be involved in that toxic lifestyle. And what we see is that eventually Ruby, she gets scouted by someone else, and who's not happy about that? Aqua's just like, what, this sounds like a fishy agency. And like he eventually goes and confronts one of the chicks that has been scouted by this sketchy agency. He's pretending to be a scout agent of Strawberry, the Strawberry agency, which is the one that their mother was in, and the one that Mayako runs now. And what we see is that he's just asking her questions like, hey, are you unhappy? How's your agency treating you? And she's like, they're pretty bad. I gotta pay for my own expenses. To be honest, there's a lot of politics, and I don't really like it, but it's whatever. I get to be kind of famous, I guess, but still. And what Aqua takes away from it is like, okay, yeah, she cannot join that agency at all. And the mom is like, yeah, I know, like that's very sketchy, like I wouldn't. And then Aqua's like, okay, how about recruiting the chick that we were just talking to? And she's like, no, because anybody that talks bad about their previous employer is it's not acceptable. It's very toxic, and I don't want that in my company. Which I understand. You don't want somebody to badmouth you behind their back. So good move in Mayaka. Which, by the way, in this episode we got to see that how much Mayaka cares about these two, because we get to see that she talks to Aqua and she has a very heart to heart, and she says, I love Ruby and I will support you guys no matter what, and I want to support her as an idol because I can't stop her, and to be honest, she would be a good idol. And I love her, even though she's not my daughter. I love her just as much as she were my biological daughter. And I think that's a great emotional moment between her and Aqua, because she in the first part, what we saw of her, she was just like, I don't want kids. She was very self-centered, selfish, but you get to see how much a kid has changed her. Now, she really cares about these kids, and, she's their mother. And I think that that's awesome. And I just think her character is great. By continuing on, we see that eventually, she tells Aqua, is like, okay, what if she joins our agency? And then Aqua settles down. He's like, you know what, you're right. I guess I'll let it slide. And what we find out is that pretty much Ruby signs a contract, and she's like, okay, I'm down to be part of Strawberry, the agency, the one that my mom was in. And Mayaka's like, yeah, okay, from here on you're gonna be our talent. And everything's good. She's very happy, and this is the beginning of her stardom. So from there on, we see that Ruby and Aqua, they go back to school, and they're about to apply to this very artsy school. And then we see that they actually bump into Kana. If you guys don't remember who Kana was, she was the girl with the red hair that was in the film with Aqua in the last episode. So we get to see her again, and she's like, hey, haven't seen you guys in forever. He's like, what's up? And they catch up, and then she's like, oh, Aqua, you're gonna be joining us like for our talent? Are you gonna be like an actor or something? And then Aqua's like, no, I'm here purely for academics. And she's like, what? And I got a little bit of jealousy, because she's like, what? I really wanted to see your acting chops. Now, we do know that Aqua's only here because he wants to get deeper into the show business, because he wants to find out who the killer of their mom was, and he thinks it's their dad. I'm not so sure, because I haven't read the manga, so I don't know anything. But he's trying to track down the killer, and he thinks that his father's gonna be the one that killed his mom, and everything points to it. So that's the only reason why he's joining this school. And overall, I thought this episode was great. I thought it was a lot of setting up the plot threads for the future, and we get to see what the character's been up to. And I just want to say, so right now, I think my favorite character is Ruby, just because I love her energy. She's awesome, and she is determined. She wants to be a star just like their mom. And for better or for worse, whether that's the right call for her, that's her decision at the end of the day. But with that being said, what did you guys think about this week's episode? Did you guys love it? Did you guys hate it? Did you guys thought it was all right? Whatever you guys thought, let me know in the comment section down below. Also, thank you so much for sticking all the way to the end of the video. I really appreciate it. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more Oshi no Ko, as well as more anime and manga content in the near future. But yeah, with that being said, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Bye bye.